Hey, all, what's going on? This is Vandal, DAOdrops interview exclusive with famous friend right here. Zach, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Really stoked to be here.
Awesome. Thanks for being a part of, this is our fourth DAOdrop event happening every Friday in the metaverse in the Bittrees Plaza of Crypto Voxels. And, the primary goal of this event, or I guess platform, so to say, is to shine a light on, amazing artists in the community who are releasing audio NFTs, whether or not it's through DAO Records, our wider community of musicians on the blockchain. And we're happy to have you here. So I guess to start things off, maybe you can just give a little introduction about yourself, let people know like who you are, where you're from, what you do.
Sure. So my name is Zach Carlson. I'm from Los Angeles, California. Been making music for a while, both as an artist, as a composer and a producer. And kind of my industry accolades are I kind of cool things I've done. I scored a Netflix show with a mentor of mine, Matt Mariano, and which was Emmy nominated. That was pretty cool. And then I have recently been working with this band, Winnetka Bowling League, as a supplemental writer and producer. It's been fun. And then I have my own project called Famous Friend that's been kind of a side thing that I do for fun, where I don't have to think about anything except just making music that I like, and kind of frees me up to do whatever I want in that space. And have had a bunch of time in the pandemic to do more of that project. And so I'm starting to come out with more songs from that. And this is one of them here, and releasing it as an NFT with you guys. So
Awesome. And sort of maybe like tell us a bit about the origin of Famous Friend. Like where did that come from? What's the concept behind it?
yeah. So yeah, I grew up in LA, and have just been around the entertainment industry my whole life. And it's sort of a trip growing up in that world a little bit. It can just be like a little bit, I don't know. It's like there you grow up with a lot of famous people's kids, and then a lot of just famous people in general. And everyone's kind of at these like different levels, and there's all this competition, and but there's also like a lot of love too. And it's just really sort of interesting amalgamation. And I had been kind of looking for, I write about LA a lot, and experiences here. And I'd been kind of looking for a term that I felt like kind of summed up everything. And there was this day that me and my friend were hanging out, uh, playing playing Call of Duty on a couch, and our other buddy was like had to stop and took this like insane phone call with these like huge directors. Um, and my buddy who I was still playing COD with was like, our fucking famous friend over there. And I was like, and we're just razzing him. And like, I was like, oh, that's the exact term to me that like kind of sums up this thing of like competition, but like friendship and love, and like how weird this place is. So that's kind of the gestation of that.
That's really cool, man. Uh, yeah, it's quite. I mean, I have no idea what LA is like, but I can only imagine, and just with that imagination, visualizing that scene that you just described as well. Like, I think I have an interesting picture in my head. So when in your pursuit of the Famous Friend project and kind of balancing that with all the other work that you've been doing music wise, what sort of led you on the path, or like how did you discover NFTs, or were you into crypto before? Like how did that come to play?
Yeah. Okay. So this is a pretty funny intro. And I think like maybe the most noobish intro that you guys will ever hear. But so I love the artist RAC, and I've been like a fan of his forever, but I wasn't like following him on Twitter. And for whatever reason, like I started following him on Twitter, um, like right before the GameStop stuff popped off, like the whole stonk Wall Street bets thing. And I saw him post this article about it. And like he made me a good chunk of money off of GameStop. And like I was like, oh, this is like, first of all, that's insane. Like that shouldn't have worked. And I was like, this dude is like on it. He's like, because he had posted that before it like went viral. And I was like, oh shit, like, you know, so basically I've just been like combing through anytime he posts something. I've just been like, okay, well, he knows what he's doing. So when he posted all his stuff about the NFTs and doing his drops with Zora and Nifty and all that, I was like, okay, I got to get into this. And then I think once I did, um, it just seemed like this really cool space. Like a lot of times I have songs that I don't really know what to do with. Um, and I don't want to go and do like a whole campaign. And like we talked about, it's so hard to gain traction. You have to put a lot of work and time into making that happen. But there's like music that I want to share. So I signed up with Audius and I was like, oh, I've got this track that I really like that I didn't want to kind of go that other route in, and put it up. And then we did a little listening session. I got in the Discord on Audius, and Maxwell put it on the listening party, and then it got on the hot new playlist, and people started. So you know, it's just been cool. I kind of just like, you know, followed some threads and linked up with you guys, and just having fun.
So you had no prior knowledge of crypto before that, and so your first
Zero.
thing is jump in as straight into NFTs. That's really cool. That is really cool. So okay, so you talked about Audius and being able to put your music, stuff that you know you felt maybe needed a home but didn't have one yet, and your experience there and that leading you to NFTs. What was your decision to mint your NFT on Rarible?
Yeah, so I like, it just felt like another fun step. Basically, it was just like the Audius thing was cool, but I think kind of where it's at right now, and I'm probably gonna, you know, come out with more stuff there too, but it seems like it's still early there in terms of like how they're going to integrate all of the blockchain and the governance tokens and all that. Um, and so I felt like, okay, well, as that's still kind of getting off the ground, um, you know, let's see if we can find a way to, one, like, you know, make some money, so I can survive and keep doing what I do. And also, I love the unlockables thing, and what you guys have been doing, you know, integrating all these. It feels almost like you're doing like, I feel like this scavenger hunt with like those unlockable beats, and like it felt like there's a lot more stuff to play with there too. So just wanted to add that experience in, and then had to learn what gas fees were and all this stuff. So
Is your NFT, is it a one of one for this release?
you know, basically, I think we talked about it a little bit. So
Yeah.
I think, you know, I was thinking down the line of like, you know, wanting to preserve some sort of value for it for the long term. So it's one of 10. And the other thing I'm thinking in future releases, I'll probably do a tiered system like we were talking about. So yeah, you know, I'm still learning with it, but I think it's a really good song, and I put in some cool unlockables and stuff, and you know, hopefully it has value to people, and can be kind of a first step in this journey.
Totally.
So I listened to the track Alone Together, and it reminded me of like a 80s sort of Depeche Mode kind of vibe. Were there any like inspirations for you personally? Like where do you draw your inspiration from for the music that you're passionate about creating?
Yeah, that's cool. I love Depeche Mode. Yeah, I definitely pull from the 80s. Like I love 80s vintage synths, and like using sus chords, which is like kind of the sound of the 80s. And then like I also like kind of where I like really got into music, was with bands like The Strokes, and like inner with like the Strokes and Interpol and Franz Ferdinand and Block Party, like all these kind of like super indie, like often like up tempo, even though Alone Together is down tempo. But yeah, that kind of like guitar based indie rock has kind of been my thing. And I love like kind of what Tame Impala has been doing, but I feel like there's not a bunch of I don't know. I feel like the indie music right now is more like based off of Mac DeMarco and kind of this more kind of like jazzy space, which is cool. I do that too. But I don't know. I love those bands from like the mid 2000s, and I kind of try to pull from those and find ways to kind of update that sound. And maybe add in a little bit of pop influences, because that's kind of my other life is producing, and I actually just like love straight up top 40 pop, so that kind of sneaks its way in there sometimes. Yeah.
So what do you use to produce? Like what are your favorite tools? Is there any plugins that you really like? Like maybe you can go into sort of your production process.
Sure. So I use two DAWs. I use Studio One and Pro Tools. I feel like they're the opposite DAWs, because like Pro Tools is like super dependable and like has to be, because like all professionals need to be able to like recall things exactly, you know, how it was like from 1998 or whatever. And then Studio One like doesn't care about that at all, and will just like update anytime they think there's a cool new feature. So I feel like that kind of balances things. And I play guitar, play a little bass, program the drums usually, or get like a friend to come in and play them. And see some good old plugins that I am digging right now. There's this cool company called Baby Audio, I think, that have two plugins. One's called it's maybe like Magic VHS. It has VHS in it, and it's just like, speaking of Depeche Mode in the 80s thing, it literally just like applies that sound. It like has like a videotape kind of like quality to it. And then this other plugin, Spaced Out, has been really rad, which is like I don't even know how to describe it. It's like this really modifiable reverb and echo that it just has all these crazy sounds. So yeah, those are some fun ones.
What about your writing process? I mean, okay, let's maybe orient this around your track, right? Alone Together. Maybe tell us a bit about what the song's about. Give us the down low on that.
All right. Well, this one was a nice little breakup song. And let's see. So yeah, I think it's over like a year old, because like I said, it's or maybe even like maybe a year and a half. And yeah, I was just kind of sitting there, so trying to figure out something to do with it. But when I had gone through that breakup, it was sort of this thing where like when we broke up, it like took all this pressure off the relationship, and then we kept kind of like seeing each other, and it was like better after we broke up, like the vibe together. And I was like, that's so insane to me. And so yeah, that's basically what the song is about. It's like, Alone Together is just like the fact that being in that relationship was so lonely, but then outside of it felt closer. So that's kind of the gist of it.
And what about the cover art? Like your choice of cover art creation, and maybe sort
Yeah,
of looking to future releases and things that you want to do, and maybe experiment with artistically along with the tunes that you select to release.
totally. Yeah. So the logo is designed by this friend of mine, Alex Gelber, and he killed it. I love this thing. It's basically like a rose stem that spells it in cursive, famous font in cursive. And so that's kind of just like the staple of a lot of the artwork. And it's just kind of like putting that into different color schemes and locations. And something fun that I did with this NFT is that I included the master file of the logo with a transparent background. And so my thought was like people that bought the NFT would have that and could make their own artwork for like future releases, maybe future NFTs or just future single releases, and that would be a fun way to collaborate with people. So hopefully that's something people are interested in.
Totally. Are there any other elements of the unlockables that you can share that, you know, aren't needing to be too much of a surprise or anything?
Yeah, well, for this first one, there's that, and then a high quality wave, because I think it's MP3 only in the NFT,
Yeah.
so you can have that file too. And I've also been thinking about like basically just kind of adding, because I basically made like a secret folder on my website that's only accessible by the NFT, and I'm thinking I may continue to add things into that folder so that it's not just like a one-off unlockable thing, but I may keep just adding things if people check that folder every now and again of maybe behind the scenes photos or you know, maybe shots of my lyric notebook for that song, and just kind of keep it as an active process.
That's awesome. I like that idea. To take back to songwriting a little bit, when you first start, what's your normal process as far as like instrumentation?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot because I listen to so many interviews and then everyone's like, it always depends, man. And I hate when they say that, but it is true. I would say I think for my stuff, very often it starts as a voice note on my phone and kind of like a basic chord progression. And usually what I do is just freestyle lyrics, and it'll kind of be nonsense, but then like there'll actually be some lines in there that are like coherent and have a perspective, and sometimes they are even cool and they like make it into the final version.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure, it sounds like maybe you
It's
do
pretty
that too.
relatable in that style. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
usually just mumble until something sounds like it's real and then just work from there, you know?
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
love that approach. Like I remember listening to I think Jeff Tweedy was saying that like he does that specifically because when he tries to write, he tries to sound cool, but when he
Yeah.
mumbles that way, it's like the pure kind of thought, and he can't hide behind anything. And I really identify with that too.
Totally.
So yeah, it's usually that. And then I mean, but actually for this one, I think it started with I just was like messing around with all these chords because I had gotten like a new synth, and I just put those chords down and programmed the drums. And so that one was built a little bit more like kind of instrumental first, but I'd say 90% of the time for at least my stuff, like Famous Friend the artist, it started that way we're talking about.
Cool.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear the writing process because, you know, as an MC, it's kind of like I'll get the vibe of the beat and kind of feel out what the flow is going to sound like in my head, and then just kind of add random words with like sort of like a freestyle and in my mind, and then find it, and then usually just kick it off with whatever comes first and build off of that. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure your initial mumblings are way more coherent than mine, since you're an MC.
Well, there's, you know, I mean, we can't compare in terms of like everyone has their own artistic processes and everything, right? Like hearing about Jay-Z's process of just getting in the studio and making the song in his head, and then boom, and spits it and it's a hit. It's like, you know,
that is just so insane to me. It's so incredible.
So I guess now that you're in the space and you've got your first audio NFT out there, and it's going to be featured on the wall somewhere over here, somewhere in the room, look around, you're going to see it there. You know, what's the next step for you? Like, what do you want to do after this? Do you want to keep experimenting? Like you mentioned, adding things to the folder, the unlock folder and stuff. Is there anything else you want to do? Maybe collaborations with people? Maybe you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, 100%. I think, it's still early, so I'm still figuring it out. But I think the two things right off the bat, like first and foremost, is I want to try to bring more of my friends into the space. So I've got a song that I've been working on with my friend JDV Plus, who had like a cool SoundCloud following, and then as SoundCloud is kind of on its way out, I'm trying to kind of bring him into this space. And so I think we'll kind of release a song, and I want to keep kind of bringing people in like that. And then the second is, yeah, like, just more collaboration, and definitely, like, I feel like there's so many cool things. Like when we were talking about the Jai Paul thing, like I want to figure out how to make an NFT that does the Jai Paul AI, where it's literally never the same. You don't stream it the same way twice. Like it changes every time. Like I feel like there's so many cool things, or this, the sort of collecting different things to unlock one thing that you're doing. Like I feel like that's the tip of the iceberg. There's so many ways. So I want to, work with you guys and different people of how to figure out like the most fun thing for people to get engaged with, and hopefully maybe get feedback too. Be like, what are you guys enjoying? And what are you guys not fucking with? And yeah, I don't know, man. It's early and exciting.
Yeah, it's one of the things I feel about the space is that it gives you the freedom to experiment, and I think like having been involved in the industry for quite a long time already, and on the fringe of it, I was never in the mainstream part of it, although like I straddled the line here and there once in a while. But I've seen it, and I kind of know how it works, and I've always sort of felt like the black sheep in a lot of ways, where my music doesn't necessarily fit the mainstream, but I've been doing it for so long, and kind of evolved into different aspects of the industry. So I'm just trying to think, like, from your perspective, um, what do you feel about the possibilities of this new technology, and how it can assist artists, and maybe what a future music industry could look like in terms of what you would like it to be, as opposed to maybe what it could be, or using similar models that already exist. What's your perfect sort of new music industry?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big question, but I think, like, right off the bat, I think it addresses two things. Like, I think the new spaces that are developing with NFTs, they, number one, bring value back to music in a big way. Like it's completely the opposite of streaming, where I think someone was, I don't remember who, but you know, music right now is almost this background activity where, you have unlimited access to music. So you're just going to kind of put it on while you're cooking, and or hanging out. And that's cool. But like, if you had to, like, if you spent the time to buy an NFT, you're not going to just put it on in the background. Like you took time out of your life and money to invest in something that now has like more value to you personally. So I think what's cool is it could even take somewhat of, be somewhat of a time capsule to when people would just like, I remember I was talking with my friend. I was like, I remember when I would just like put on an album and just listen and do nothing else. And I did that again recently with a Gorillaz record. It was awesome. And so I think that's a cool thing, is like bringing that value back and into music. And I think it probably won't bring it back for everybody, but even if it's just for a select group of people that really do value music in that way, it allows for the option to have that sort of relationship. And then I think the other thing is just like you've been talking about, just the gatekeeper aspect and the industry aspect, where you had to have all these sort of, services and different people to go through in order to, get your music out there. And, we're always going to have to find ways of promoting and marketing, but maybe this is like a more equitable, community-based way of marketing, where people kind of help each other out to get the word out there, as opposed to having to pay people and then try to shove it in as many faces as possible. So I think it's going to be in those two places where this thing really shows its value, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like there's an aspect of this that brings back kind of the intimacy that not only that I think that a lot of us long for, that are, you know, heavy into music, that we had when we were younger with albums and stuff like you're talking, but also I think for just even more casual fans, what they've lost in not being able to go to shows. You know, there's an intimacy to this, and that investment connection that I think kind of also feeds with it too, with what you're talking about. Um, and with that, have you found any other things that you're thinking about as far as like bringing in performance elements to this kind of space, or is that anything you're exploring yet?
Yeah, so that for me, like, so I'm more of a studio guy, so I haven't been playing. I'll play a live show every once in a while, but I'm not like currently like set up for live shows. But I Vandal posted something in the Discord with he's got a complicated Ethereum name on Discord. So, but the guy that does the DJ sets, and we were chatting a little bit about he, you know, brings up people for live shows and stuff. So I definitely love, and I also love the crypto voxel stuff. So like playing in those virtual worlds and trying to find a cool way to do a live show in those spaces would be awesome. Might be a little farther away from me, but it's just like trying to figure out something, I guess, visually. I think that's a big thing. You know, you have a screen, so what can you do that's engaging? And I mean, I feel like we're all, you know, as awesome as this is, I feel like we're all slightly sick of Zooms. So we're trying to like find a way to make things a little more interesting and engaging. And I don't know. Yeah, it's an awesome possibility.
Totally. I mean, I think the visual aspect definitely is a part that we can explore more as musicians, you know, as we learn this space. But even with, you know, being more of a studio musician too, it'd be cool if you did like pre-recorded, you know, even with lights and stuff that was less performance based and more visual based could be cool too. I think there's a lot of possibility for it. And I think that there's, you know, some opportunity for audience that are looking to connect in that way too. It's a neat time to be involved in this.
Are you starting to get some live ideas together, Jacob? Or
I mean, I'm trying to. I'm kind of in the same boat. I was in a band previously, but I've never performed as Bone Police because I started writing music for this just a couple of years ago, you know, so still trying to learn how to do it. And a lot of the stuff that I have, you know, it just would be, you know, I'd probably do backing tracks since it's just me alone here. So still trying to figure it out, kind of the same, where I was hoping to pick your brain on some visual ideas. Maybe we can collaborate on something.
100%. And I would also say for anybody watching this too, like my buddy Paper Idol does these really dope live shows on Instagram. So I'd probably just look at his Instagram and be like, all right, what are they doing? So but that's a good artist to check out, who I think kind of kills it with making that stuff interesting. And it's a duo, so he's got a little support in, you know, different instruments, and they'll switch instruments, which is cool. But you got to be able to do that. So
yeah, right on.
So I guess before we wrap up the interview here, I wanted to just kind of touch on something you mentioned previously with, you know, getting your friends, the people that you know in your network, onboarding them and telling them about NFTs in this space. Have you already spoken about this to any of them, and how is the process? Like we all have different experiences with the onboarding, so I would like to hear yours.
Totally. So it's very varied, and I think it really tends to come down to how familiar, like, you know, kind of what their prior knowledge is. So like JDV, he's big into Ethereum. He's been for a while. Like, this makes a lot of sense to him pretty much off the bat. I mean, we still have to talk it more, but when I brought it up, he was like, oh yeah, that I get it. Like, and then there's other people where it's like, it literally is just like the most complex foreign language, like, and the eyes glaze over immediately. And the thing that's interesting is like, they're very like explorative, like innovative people. But I just think it's something about the terminology. So I think I've been trying to find ways to like not use any of the buzzwords basically, and just try to talk about like I forget where I read, I think it's on Zora or something, like there's some analogy when they're trying to explain it where they talk about the Mona Lisa, about NFTs, and they're like, we know if you bought the Mona Lisa, that'd be very different than buying a poster of the Mona Lisa. But in the digital space, there's been no difference between the original, and like NFTs provide an original, like the original Mona Lisa. That's been like a good kind of way for me to kind of get people to understand it. As soon as I started talking about like blockchain and governance tokens and all this stuff, I'm fucked. So I don't know. What's your guys' experience been with that stuff? I'm really interested because I'm sure you have to deal with that all the time.
I mean, pretty similar to yours for me. The language is the biggest barrier when I'm talking to new people. The biggest thing that I noticed though too is I feel like artists that I talk to that have been kind of, like Vandal was saying, feeling like the black sheep of their scene or whatever it is, you know, where you're just like not quite finding the right lane. You know, I feel like this is the space for those people, but I feel like they're the ones that are a lot easier to get engaged in the conversation. People that I've talked to, artists that have maybe found a little bit more established success in the way things were pre-COVID, you know, a lot more resistant. So, you know, it's really just trying to soften the familiarity, being like, just check it out. Or, you know, like the big thing though with artists is like the perpetual royalty for your work, you know, that a one-time sale isn't the only time that your art has value for you. And as your artistry grows and your fan base grows, that, you know, your value grows too, and your potential value. And that's kind of how I've been trying to get more established artists to kind of soften to the idea. But with people that feel like the black sheep, a lot of times it's like, man, there are people here that care about music, and that, you know, is kind of enough to get them to be interested.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I guess it's people that if you kind of have your thing going, nobody wants to do the work to switch it up, and people that are more open maybe are,
well,
you know,
I think
still looking for something.
I think there's a lot of anxiety for those that had kind of a career going before, because every way that they were generating money is kind of on the brakes, you know, and it's been that way for a while. So I think that already the headspace that you're in, the anxiety that you're probably feeling a little bit with, like, man, I was going and now things are on the break. I think it just makes naturally people a little bit more, you know, maybe they roadblock new information a little bit because they're already not feeling very good. So it's just, to me, it's just trying to get people to know, like, you know, there's no timeline. Like, just start thinking about this stuff, because I think there's a lot to benefit here, and I think it values your artistry more. And for like those that are like, oh, well, you know, I'm really into tangible items, and it's like, yeah, you can bring that here too. You know, you're just basically selling the authenticity of your work. So, you know, you can still bring that, you know, which is really awesome. I've been so inspired by just being in this space and meeting other people here. And it's, to me, it's a blast to talk to other people, but there's definitely, you know, the times where it's just like, I don't know anything you just said in the last half hour, but I'm glad you're having fun.
Yeah, there's definitely that learning curve, you know. And I think that because anybody who's coming into the space, they could potentially find it very overwhelming. Just the amount of information that is out there, the amount of people who have opinions and ideas, and the amount of projects they're shilling. And, you know, it can be intimidating for a lot of people who come in and they don't know where to start. You know, they might feel nervous that they don't know anything, or, you know, afraid to ask the questions. You know, although the community is very open to help, which I really love about it. And it does have that sort of grassroots kind of feel where it's very art and artist driven, and not so much about the money. although there's that element too, where you kind of see bigger artists selling things for a lot of money, and you're like, oh well, how should I price my stuff? Like there's so many sort of areas of confusion, which I think is part of us here in the space trying to take all of that and pave the path to make it easier for people who come in. Um, we were talking about like an audio NFT playbook or something where it's like people can come in and just kind of follow along, or whether it's even a game, so we can gamify it. You complete this step, the 36 chambers style, like you got to go
Yeah.
through each chamber until you become a master at the end. So I think these are fun ways that we can look at, engaging artists in a way that's not so tech.
Mm,
Like some artists are familiar with the tech side, which is great. And I think that currently the way the space is benefits them more than anyone else. But there are a whole slew of artists who still have trouble, with social media and managing that side of things, who are pure like sort of artistes in that sense,
mm,
where all they do is just do their art or like play their instrument or something, and they don't really care about the technology. So to have something that speaks their language, like you said, I think is really important. That kind of takes, puts the technical jargon in the back seat, so to say. But I mean, on that note, I think that we're going to get people to listen to the track and to play the audio NFT in the space, and maybe just to, if you have any sort of things you want to add here at the end, anything that you want to say, whatever it is, I'll let you close it out.
yeah, well, I just wanted to say thank you for this platform and really all that you guys are doing. Like, I really would be very lost without people like you and kind of breaking it down, like you said. And I also have to give a shout out to, I think it's Craig Blackburn. Is that because I don't know if you remember, but on Clubhouse, I was like, did I say it right? Is
Craig
that
Blackmore.
Blackmore? Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you remember, but on Clubhouse, I was like, I saw this YouTube video that like completely broke it down, and it was like the only reason I was able to mint, and it was his. He did this awesome tutorial about like Rarible and mint base. So thank you, Craig. Like that was like exactly what I needed, and I know he's in your community, and so like that stuff like could have been the difference between me doing an NFT or never doing it and never getting into the space. So just really appreciate what you guys are doing there.
Awesome stuff. Well, thanks so much, famous friend Zach. Appreciate it, and glad to have you as a part of the community. This is the way we grow. Step by step, person by person. We don't need to accumulate users and all these kind of things to build a community. And also thanks to Jake from Bone Police for joining us on this interview. Yeah, enjoy the rest of the show, and have a look around CryptoVoxels. Drop a message in the chat, sign the guest book, do all of that good stuff, and chicken dance with your avatars and whatever else is out there. All right, Joe.
Sick.
Peace.
Bye, guys.